Hey guys, Ben here from Session Media and welcome back to another episode of SaaS Crunch. Today we're going to be looking at this highly successful software brand called Bullhorn, who are a recruitment software provider for recruiters. And I'm going to go into some bits where if I was looking at their digital marketing plan and primarily search engine marketing plan, so SEO and PPC or Google Ads, where would I start? What gaps would I be looking to plug and sort of look to tighten up their strategy? It's also going to be quite a good video for companies who are looking to compete against big brands. In most software spaces, there's going to be one or two big brands which monopolize or oligopolize the market. And there's always ways that you can peel market share away from them. And there's been some companies that have been doing this to Bullhorn, which we're going to go into today, and you can look to leverage that potentially in your strategies. And I'm going to try and do it in around 10 minutes or so. We'll see how that goes. May run slightly over. So this is the company website, of course, and I know from LinkedIn, Bullhorn's over 1,200 people. So let's have a little look at their search engine marketing. Let's go to an overview. From a search traffic point of view, we can see that there's a lot of search traffic. I know a lot of it is branded, but when we're looking at SEO, in this video, I'm primarily going to be looking at high intent SEO. And by high intent, I mean keywords which are bottom of the funnel, looking to capture that demand rather than creating the demand through content, which is a slightly different topic. So let's look at the software searches. And let's go into the UK because that's just whereabouts I'm based. So let's have a look down here. Okay, cool. So what we have here is the exact spec of what these guys do. Again, they're recruitment software and they're selling to recruiters. So recruitment software, and for a brand who's a lot of referring domains, they've got a lot of branded search. So these guys have built this engine around the brand, and there's definitely a few things they can do to pick up on this. And 450 searches a month may not seem like very much, but a lot of the time Ahrefs sort of undershoots it slightly, and the long tail variation we know from ranking in a very similar industry to this, it's going to be a lot higher than what it looks like here. And if you're going to pay for cost per click, it's around £65 CPC. So looking at ranking for this keyword for a company at this size should be one of the primary goals of a high intent SEO campaign, along with lots of different other software searches, across recruitment software UK, for example, executive search software, whatever it may be, recruit CRM software, lots of variations. But in this video, we'll look at recruitment software. And if we actually go over to the SERP and type in recruitment software, obviously we've got the ads here, but apart from the featured snippet, we have the number one search here is actually a branded search. So it's actually not one of those results pages that's dominated by the likes of aggregators and G2 Crowd and everything else. And going down, I know there's a few others like Recruity, Workable, couple of Capterra there. But what we found is there's a good handful of companies who are ranking well that actually have the software page appearing, which is the first battle. And again, if we go in and we do a bit of a batch analysis and look at Bullhorn versus Voyager, there's a lot of things which show me, if I was working at Bullhorn, that I'd know that we'd be able to outrank them. For example, they've got high DR. Again, this means very little. It's a bit of a superficial metric, but again, it's just a relative one when you're first eyeballing something. And I'm not going to go too much into all the different technical on-page link building reasons why I think it could be. All we know is Bullhorn has the strength of domain and probably the resource to go and outrank, but it's just a matter of going out there and prioritizing this as a bottom of funnel new client acquisition. And because their brand is so strong, they're probably going to actually get a higher conversion rate than people that may not be as well known. But this also goes to show that if you are a smaller brand competing against bigger ones, I think Voyager, when I was having a look, are under sort of around 80 people. You can compete with some of the biggest brands in the world if you focus your efforts around search marketing and that gap in the market is there. So by that, I mean brands are actually ranking for service pages, not the likes of aggregators in the software space. So you can go after that. So from a search perspective, there's definitely a trick here being missed if I was working for Bullhorn, for example, that I want to go after. Now, I know this keyword is probably profitable for them because if we go and look at ads. And we can see here that they're going to be bidding on likes of recruitment software, and they take you through to a home page. And I think this is where a lot of value and time can be added to search campaigns. That if you are running a Google Ads campaign and you're running on queries which are converting well, you can look at the data in your CRM and you can take whether it's G-Slid data and re-upload it back into your Google Ads, or you can look at it from a keyword level and say, we've converted this much revenue off the back of these C keywords and a direct response touch point. We know it's time for us to start running an SEO campaign for these keywords and making sure we rank. So they obviously bid on these keywords or this keyword and value it from a PPC perspective, but maybe they haven't quite translated that into an SEO perspective. Now, one thing I want to touch on before I go off, I'm not going to go too much into a layout of a landing page and whatnot today. There's probably a few things that can be neatened up here. But one of the big things is something called hidden fields. Now, when you go into a form and do any PPC activity, there's these things called hidden fields. Now, hidden fields are the fields that you can't see here. So these are visible fields, obviously. Hidden fields are one behind the scene. And what will happen behind the form is that there's lots of query strings up in the URL bar which pull through from a click within the UTM code. And what you can do is pull certain elements of those and put them within the hidden fields. Now, this helps for a lot of reasons, because then when someone fills out a form and then goes into your CRM system, you're going to be able to see the query that person typed in before submitting a form. Then if you make a sale or get a good quoted value off the back of that, that means you know that keyword is profitable and a highly valuable one for you to go after from not only a PPC standpoint, but from an SEO standpoint. So if you want to go and see if you've got it in there, obviously I think they're using Marketo forms and landing pages, I'd imagine. But if you see here, you've got hidden form ID, field descriptor, and you got field description. So it's probably just taking from a channel perspective. What you want is the keyword, and you can actually have the C. So if someone types in recruitment software, that will pull through into your query string within the UTM of your search bar. You can then pull that UTM out into a hidden field, which will push it into your CRM. So make sure that you have that value, because without that, you're never really going to get a last touch point attributable or direct response attributable figure of revenue against keywords, which therefore means you don't know how much money to allocate towards your SEO efforts. So just one quick tip that I'd say, if you're running PPC ads, make sure that it is pulling through the keyword data, very minimum G-Slid data, which you can re-upload at the very gold standard. Now, that's very much my 2 cents, that bidding on it from Google Ads, they need to look at how profitable it is, and then it'd be worth saying how much are we going to put in to try and outrank everyone else for recruitment software. I also want to look finally at things on brand, because if you look at brand here, a lot of people and a lot of smaller companies will take kind of a swing at bigger brands which are benchmarked. Whether that's a good or bad strategy in search is TPC, because it kind of establishes them as the thought leader and industry leaders. So kind of 6 and 1 and half a dozen of the other with regard to opinion on that. But what I'd say is they've got a brand here which is getting loads and loads of search volume, and it would be pennies in the pound to get an absolute top bid on their brand, rather than allowing these guys here to come in and say, I had enough of bull blank blank blank, and then I don't know how they've been allowed to use this if it hasn't been trademarked. I guess they can, but again, it's very much, they probably won't get conversions, and it probably will be wasted ad spend, but again, why take the chance of allowing that to flow? I'd say increase the overall click-through rate and quality score of your account by having a branded search campaign in there. Again, it's one of those arguable points which people say, but ultimately let's capitalize on that search rather than getting them to go to someone else's website, which they're not looking for. So the navigational intent's not there. It's still just a bit annoying from a user's perspective. And also it gives them the ability to try and spend potentially a lot of budget, if they're a funded company, behind trying to steal eyeballs from an awareness point of view. So my 2 cents on the search strategy. If you want to see more regular updates of site reviews in the software or B2B space, make sure you follow along. And any questions, you can catch me on here or at ben at session-media.com. I hope you have a great day.